Tiny Lies is a 1988 short story collection by the Canadian author Kate Pullinger. Pullinger was born in British Columbia in 1961, and she went to school on Vancouver Island. She dropped out of university and went to work in a copper mine in Yukon, where she stayed for a year. She moved to Britain in 1982 and submitted short stories to a variety of magazines before winning a significant competition in 1986. Tiny Lies was her first published book. It contains 22 pieces, fairly evenly spread over roughly 160 pages. In other words, none is very long. After it was published, Pullinger went on to become a full-time academic. She's conducted important forays into digital literature, won Canada's top literary prize for a novel, The Mistress of Nothing, and collaborated with the film director Jane Campion on the novelisation of the latter's 1993 film, The Piano. Although Tiny Lies was critically hailed on its release, it's been overshadowed by the diversity and magnitude of her other achievements. It's currently out of print, which is exasperating since it's original, thought-provoking, and entertaining. Anyone who cares about literature hopes that such works will at least survive. On the back cover of my copy, Pullinger says, "I wanted to call it Tiny Lies because it's about people trying to reinvent themselves, telling tiny lies to make their lives a little better, and trying to find their way to their own identity." With all due respect, however, I don't think that's the best summary. Tiny Lies consistently blurs the boundary between truth and fabrication, and the word identity seems to hint at an essentialist conception of the person, which is generally missing here. Today newspaper, which ceased publication in 1995, put it much better when it said that all of the stories in here have a single theme: escape, and in many ways that's what makes them important. The notion of escape requires at least three things: a conception of where you're coming from, a conception of where you're going to, and a conception of who it is that's doing the escaping. Tiny Lies plays these three things against each other. Is it possible, for example, that you might want to escape from X into Y, but that the very process of doing so will transform you into the kind of person who immediately wants to go back? There's a lot in here about dreams, and many of the characters live in squats, which may seem to date the collection but doesn't, and all the protagonists are women. Throughout the collection, Pullinger subverts the conventions of ordinary storytelling. Characters speak to each other in terse, informational sentences. Vastly different time periods and geographical locations are juxtaposed. Many of the protagonists are mad, though never objectionably so, and often questionably so. And there's always a weird sense of the angelic, in the frightening, biblical sense of the term, just round the corner. The reviewer in the New Statesman wrote, "My absolute favourite story is Battersea Power Station, which is too good to even begin to describe. My own favourite would be The Unbearable Shortness of Holidays, in which two women go to Perugia, and one of them becomes fixated on gelatos, which take on the symbolic weight of a whole new mode of life." Pullinger clearly knows her Milan Kundera from her Roland Barthes. Both appear in here fairly obliquely, but she wears her learning lightly. This is an important collection, intelligent, witty, probing, and deep. The good thing about books that go out of print is that they can occasionally be resuscitated. Let's hope this one is.